Paris is one of the most visited cities in the world, and with good reason, because everything you've heard about in Paris is probably worth visiting, but there is so much to do. If it's your first time visiting, how do you prioritize all of it? So today I'm going to rank each and every arrondissement in Paris based on which I think might be the best for you to spend time in if it's your first time visiting in Paris. Something that's a little bit tricky for me in some ways because I've lived here long enough to become French. I spend most of my time off the beaten path, and while I would like to get you off the beaten path, you got to do the beaten path first. You actually do when it comes to Paris. So I'm going to do everything I can to walk us through Paris, its monuments, and this brings us to a few rules about how I'm doing it. I'm prioritizing major monuments and museums because they are almost bar none absolutely worth it. Walkability and explorability in the neighborhood, shopping options, bars, restaurants, coffee shops. And for those, I will definitely be leaning more local. I'm gonna try and push you in that direction as much as I can because I love to support local businesses. That is what I'm here for. And of course, within this rating scheme, S is the top, F is the bottom. That should be obvious. I'm giving myself a maximum of one S tier and a minimum of one F tier. So I have to pick one of each and then we'll see what goes in between. But as you'll discover, all of Paris is worth exploring if you spend enough time here. Today, we're talking specifically to first-time visitors, however, and we have so much to talk about in so little time, so let's dive straight into the first, and we'll see what we pick up as we go. Now, if you're unfamiliar, the arrondissements of Paris start with the first tier in the middle and spiral out like a snail all the way to the 20th. These are municipal districts. Arrondissement means municipal district. I will be pronouncing it arrondissement and arrondissement, and I don't even know how throughout this entire video because it gets confusing when you're speaking both languages. So feel free to check out the comments to see who's making fun of me for how I'm saying it. I'm sure it'll happen, whatever. The first arrondissement is going to be very well known for things like the Louvre, Pont Neuf. It only has a little section of one of the islands on it, as you can see in this little map, but it has a lot of stuff you're absolutely going to want to see. Basically, everyone's going to go see the Louvre. You might even leave with some souvenir jewels on your way out. You never know. There's a lot of shopping here. There's the Tuileries Gardens, which aren't my favorite park, but are definitely worth a stroll. There's some phenomenal museums outside of the Louvre, but the Louvre is one that everybody has to go to, which weights this one very, very highly. There's also an increase in good food here, and some of the best coffee in the city actually happens to be here. Châtelet-Les Halles is a place you can go do your general shopping, but it's not very local, and has a reputation for being a little bit pickpockety, if you're not careful. Oh, and let's not forget the Bourse de Commerce, which is a place I haven't gotten to yet, but I'm going to this week, because it looks so good. But overall, it's gonna be basically impossible to avoid the first, and I'm repeatedly told that this is a hidden gem, even though it blows my mind. The Palais Royal. If you've ever seen those photos of people standing on tall stacks of poker chips, beautiful garden. Formerly royal residences, also formerly a brothel, some very interesting stories throughout. You're going to want to make sure that you hit the Palais Royal while you're in the first. And you're going to go to the first while you're in Paris, which means that we're going to go ahead and start it off with our very first A. It's definitely an A tier. If you want to know what the S tier is, though, you're going to have to stick around a little bit longer. And of course, if you want help hitting all of the major monuments in your first 48 hours, we have a 48-hour itinerary that we will give you for free. It's through Paris in my pocket, my guide to Paris, but it's 100% free. You just give us your email, we shoot you a link to that, and your first 48 hours, completely planned, you're going to hit all these major monuments. Bing, bang, boom. With that, let's move on to the second arrondissement. And I hope you appreciate that I made some modifications to my map here so that you can better follow along if you're unfamiliar with which arrondissement is which. Hopefully, you'll see how this evolves over time, but hopefully this is good enough. The second arrondissement I always call a hidden gem. It has a lot of really great restaurants, a lot of great shopping. The number one thing that stands out about the second arrondissement, to me personally, is the covered passageways. There's so many galleries, as they call them, but so many passageways that you can go through where you can shop, you can find really interesting, fascinating, fun things from like old maps to stamp collections, restaurants, all kinds of fun stuff within them. I really love the second, and it's a place that I didn't really get into until I lived here. It has Rue Montorgueil, which you've probably heard about, Sentier, a great neighborhood for eating and drinking and just hanging out. But the second does not have any big parks, doesn't have any major monuments. It has some museums, but you know, it's nothing that you're gonna have heard about probably in advance. Somebody's gonna get mad at me for that. Second also has the Bibliothèque Nationale de France Richelieu, the BNF Richelieu, which is the gorgeous reading room that you've seen on Instagram, TikTok, all over the place. And while TikTok is overhyping a lot of places that are not worth visiting, this is definitely worth going for at least a photo. It is a library, so you need to be quiet. All the books are in French, so if you don't speak French, you probably won't be able to read much, but going in there just for some peace and quiet, amazing. The room itself, gorgeous, and the permanent collection at the library is also really cool, especially if you happen to be a coin collector. They have, I think it's Louis XIV's coin collection. There's a whole bunch of interesting stuff in there that I've seen that I've never seen anywhere else, and I really, really love it a lot. Super worth visiting if you're looking for a museum that not very many people have gone to. But if you're a first-time visitor, the second arrondissement might be a place you wind up for dinner at some point, but you're probably not going to do much more than wander through. I'm going to start with a C. It pains me. I love this neighborhood, but if you're a first-timer, moving on to the third. The third arrondissement is also known as the Haute Marais, and I know you've heard of the Marais because everybody goes to the Marais. This is the part of the Marais that has the most food. It used to be very much the center of the up-and-coming food scene in Paris. Good food, good bars, good coffee, all of that. It has some great museums in it, like the Picasso Museum is located there. It doesn't really have any big parks, and it doesn't have any big monuments that you would know, but it is so nice for exploring and wandering through. Much like the second, it's got a ton of character, it's very dense, so nice to wander around. And you're definitely not gonna go hungry while you're wandering around in it. And if you happen to be a fashionista, you love your fashion, this is where all the pop-ups are gonna be during Fashion Week. And as you may know, it is always Fashion Week in Paris. Basically, it feels that way at least. But because the third is lacking for the major monuments, and unless you're a huge Picasso fan, honestly, the Picasso Museum is not my favorite museum in Paris. Beautiful building, but kind of on the collection. Personally, I'm gonna get in so much trouble for saying that. I think the third is especially necessary for the foodies among us and is definitely gonna be there for the fashionistas. It's gonna be very hard to avoid, and you're going to the Marais anyways, so you're gonna end up here to eat. The third gets a B tier from me. And speaking of Haute Marais, let's talk about the Marais. The fourth arrondissement is one you are guaranteed to go to because it is the home of the most visited site in Paris, at least before the fire, and that is Notre Dame. Notre Dame is the Cathedral of Paris. It is one of the oldest buildings in the city, although it is not the oldest by a long shot. It is the gorgeous Gothic Catholic cathedral and could be argued to be the heart of Paris, if not the heart of France, because it is where we measure kilometer zero from. All distances to Paris are measured from a medallion right in front of Notre Dame, which is something hopefully your tour guide will point out to you if you're coming for your first time. It is free to enter. It is not free to go up to the top of, but it is worth it for the views. That just opened this year, which is very exciting. The fourth is also classically known for being the gay and Jewish district of Paris, although it definitely does not hold a corner on either of those markets anymore. There's a ton of history here. There are a lot of old buildings. It is so wanderable. It has Place des Vosges and St. Paul, which is, I think, often an overlooked church that's very interesting to go check out. It also has the best sections of the river for drinking, nightlife, just taking a stroll, going for a jog, Paris-Plage, whatever you're looking for. The fourth kind of has, does it have it all? For first-time visitors, the fourth really nails a lot. Also has the majority of both islands. Honestly, you're going to love it. And if you're a first-time visitor, I often say, particularly because I think Paris is so walkable and so best experienced on foot, if you can draw a circle around Notre Dame, like a 15-minute walk, try to stay within it. It is gonna be pretty expensive to do that. It's not gonna be in everyone's budget, but if you can manage that for your first time in Paris, it's gonna be safe, very walkable, tons of great food. You're on the river and so close to so many things that we love about the city. It is very much the heart of Paris, and you're not gonna go wrong. The fourth also has one of my favorite rooftop bars in the city. Like, there's a lot to love. So the fourth arrondissement, given all that I just said, and probably a few things I forgot in the midst of all that, happens to fall very close to the top. It's the S tier. Absolutely is the S tier. While I'm not shy in saying that you probably wanna get out to eat, like the third is gonna be a better option for that. If you're a foodie, there's some great coffee, there are some great restaurants. Of course, I have some of those in my guide at paris.my.pocket.com if you wanna grab those, but I really genuinely love the fourth so much, and it's a place that I can go to just walk and feel like I am in the heart of old Paris. However, it's not the only place that has that vibe for me, and we're gonna get into those as we pop on into the fifth. The fifth arrondissement, I think, gets the short end of a lot of people's sticks because it's farther away from the bougier parts of the left bank. And if you're curious, the left bank is the south portion of the city, the right bank is the north portion. You know which side you're on because it's based on the flow of the river, and then you're standing on the right bank or the left bank. It's how the French think of orienting their cities around rivers across the board. It gets very confusing. So the fifth is the beginning of our left bank series here, and it is very student vibey, as we tend to say. It is home to the Pantheon, to the Jardin des Plantes, and the Jardin des Plantes, or the plant garden, is one of the most storied parks in the city, especially when it comes to education and history, and it is the home of a variety of different museums, including the Museum of Evolutionary History, Geology, Botany, and then of course it has one of the oldest zoos in the world. If if you want to come to Paris and see red pandas or just a whole menagerie of animals, you can go to the menagerie. That's what they call it, is a menagerie. While the Jardin des Plantes itself is free to enter, those different museums are not, but they're very worth it. If you have kids, great place to go and spend time. Made a whole video on how to do Paris with kids, and everybody recommended the Jardin des Plantes at some point in that video. The Fifth is very vibrant. There's a lot of local life because there are a lot of students there, so you will actually hear a lot of French. There are a lot of cheap and international eats. You're still gonna find some great wine, and the Pantheon is the home of one of my favorite views of the city. If it's open during warmer months, you should absolutely go up to the top of it, but even if you don't, the interior is gorgeous, and the crypt is so interesting to go see. France's best and brightest buried below. So the Fifth Arrondissement is a place I love to go, also because it feels very much to me like discovering something new. There's something about walking through, whether it's the ancient Roman ruins at the Arène de Lutèce, or it's vibey student life on Rue Mouffetard, which I personally think is very overrated for food, but is very much fun to wander through nonetheless. It's really hard to go wrong with the Fifth. It has a wide variety of things, and honestly, if you're visiting, I believe the Fifth should land around your A tier. Whether you're gonna just visit it or you're gonna stay there, you're not gonna go wrong in the Fifth. Which brings us to the Sixth. Generally speaking, I would say the absolute favorite of the left bank is gonna be the Sixth. Everybody loves the left bank for Luxembourg Gardens, for Saint-Germain-des-Pr&eacute. It's great for shopping. The church itself at Saint-Germain-des-Pr&eacute has been restored recently. I forget how many, maybe it was like 5 years ago now, but it was under scaffolding for so long, that image is stuck in my brain. But it's gorgeous inside, bright colors, beautiful everything. There's so much good food in the Sixth. It's the narrowest. It's so, you can see it on the map. It's kind of like skinny. It's really shoved in there, but like so worth visiting. The Jardin de Luxembourg is really worth it no matter what time of year you're going. It's beautiful in the spring and the fall, because spring and fall are my favorite times to visit Paris anyways. If I were to recommend you coming for your first time, I would angle for one of those too, but in the summer it's great. As long as you stick to the shade, it gets really hot with the gravel everywhere. French gardens tend to be very like symmetrical and tons of gravel everywhere. That light gravel reflects a lot of heat. So during the summer, it can be a little bit brutal, but aside from that, it's an amazing park. There are some really fun, small, walkable streets, tons of shopping, and again, a variety of things. It's not all upscale, it's not all cheap. It's a good middle ground between the like ritzier 7th, I would say, and the studentier 5th, while also being the host of the Senate. Some amazing bookstores, tons of bookstores everywhere. It's a really charming area. And also, if you're looking for movies, between the 5th and the 6th, you're gonna find a lot of independent movie theaters. So it's a great place to go catch a film while you're here, especially if you wanna see something in French. The 6th, therefore, should come as no surprise as falling also within this A tier, because hey, you're not gonna go wrong there either. You're gonna notice a trend, but early on here, especially if you're looking for a place to stay, the 4th, 1st, 5th, or 6th, it's gonna be hard to go wrong. If you're a foodie, if you love history, if you love walking, parks, monuments, you're in good company. Which brings us to the more controversial, the 7th. The 7th arrondissement is one you're also going to visit because the Eiffel Tower is there. And it is the second most visited monument in Paris. I'd have to look up the stats. The stat depends on who you ask, which stats go where, but the Eiffel Tower, again, iconic, one of the most visited monuments in the world, a place that Parisians do not go because we don't want to walk through the mess at the base of it. It is known for its pickpockets and scam artists, so keep your wits about you when you're hanging out there. Don't talk to Mickey Mouse, he's a creep. But you will, and I think you should go up it. The Eiffel Tower is a wonderful experience going up. I've gone up it multiple times. I'll try to go up it again this year for a video. That will be titled something like Why Parisians Don't Go to the Eiffel Tower. But every time I've gone, I've really enjoyed the views. The building itself is so historic and it's very, very worth it. The arrondissement as a whole, the 7th, is very beautiful. It's very quiet. It has huge boulevards, gorgeous Haussmannian buildings. The Champ de Mars is there, Les Invalides is there, Musée d'Orsay is there. There's some great riverside bars there if you want to go to like the Rosa Bonheur. One half of the Alexander III Bridge, which is gorgeous. And one of my favorite museums in the entire city is there. Musée d'Orsay is great, but like I personally love the Rodin Museum. I don't know what it is about Rodin. As a sculptor, I grew up just adoring his work, and going there for the first time was an incredible and magical experience for me. Between the house that they have there that you get to go through and the gardens, for me personally, I would highly recommend that over going to like the Picasso Museum in the 3rd, because the collection, at least I find to be more substantial, and they tend to have a lot of interesting other pieces there. Like there'll be some Van Gogh or something else that will surprise you when you're going through. So the Rodin Museum, huge. There's some good good coffee with like Coutume over on Rue de Babylon. And it's just a really fun area to explore. I would say that generally the 7th ranks lower for me for food specifically and coffee. You do have Zia and Milagro. Milagro, definitely go there for dinner. Zia, get your breakfast or your coffee there before you go one way or the other. So there are increasingly good options for coffee, at least. And I'm sure that there are going to be some great restaurants I find there here soon. It's going to be really hard to avoid. You're going to end up there. I think you're going to enjoy it. There's some really great stuff to see when you're in the 7th. It does not, however, hit A tier for me because it is a little bit bigger, a little less walkable, a little bit less accessible by metro, and it's just not quite as dense, right? But B tier is still pretty good, right? 7th arrondissement people, can I give you that much? I hope so, because that brings us notoriously to my least favorite arrondissement, the 8th. Now, the 8th arrondissement is fairly central. It has a lot going on as far as like upscale shopping and petty crime. I don't know, the 8th is like not very, it's the least densely populated, and if you're very wealthy, it might be right up your alley. The Louis Vuitton giant like suitcase store is there, among many others. The Champs-Élysées is basically a strip mall. It doesn't have the same charm and character that it's associated with in the past. Parisians definitely don't go to the Champs-Élysées, and I mean, if you want to go to McDonald's, you can go to the one there. If you do need an Apple store, it's gorgeous. That's like the flagship Apple store there. It is beautiful, so if you need to pick up like a charging cable or something, go for it. There are a few things that I do think you have to do when you're there, though. The Arc de Triomphe is amazing. It's very worth visiting. It has one of my favorite views of the city. It's worth paying for to get up to the top of that and to get your photos, for sure. Don't walk the Champs-Élysées. It's very long, very much a shopping mall. It's a strip mall, basically. But the Grand Palais and Petit Palais are there, which are also wonderful. The Grand Palais, currently as I'm filming this, has a giant ice rink in it, but it always has different exhibitions going on. The structure itself, gorgeous, recently refurbished. The Petit Palais, the small palace, across the street from it, is free to enter. In the summer, it's air conditioned, which is great. There are often very interesting exhibitions going on in there. There's a little cafe hidden in the middle, which I'm sure you've seen online. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily for the food and coffee versions. There are some coffee shops not far from here now in the 8th that are very worth it. Cafe Nuance is going to be one of those. St. Pearl opened a place down there recently, which is technically in the 16th, but feels very much in the 8th. It's like a weird little nub that probably should be in the 8th. And then Parc Monceau. One of my favorite parks in the city that everybody thinks is in the 17th, but is actually in the 8th. It's one of those old Second Empire, like made to feel a lot older than it is. And then there are a lot of little private museums in the 8th that are also really, really worth it. As much as I give it a hard time and as much as I rag on it, honestly, if you're visiting, you have to go for so many different reasons. That being said, I still can't, in good conscience, rate it anything higher than a C. If I rated the 8th higher than the 2nd, I could never forgive myself. Also forgive the changing lights in the background. The LED that I have back there has died. I can't control it anymore, so I guess we're going with purple from the rest of this video. While the 8th may not have the best of vibes, the 9th has some great vibes. The 9th arrondissement of Paris has so much to love, and I have said this before, is very diverse in its offerings, for being very luxury bougie in the western section, to being more residential cozy in the eastern section, and very nightlife and kind of risque in the north, particularly. While I wouldn't eat or drink or do anything really particularly fun in the western section of the 9th, it is where Galeries Lafayette and Printemps are if you want to go to the very famous department stores. I forgot to mention the Bon Marché in the 7th. I wonder how many people commented on that. The Bon Marché is super cool though, really great history there as well. So the department stores started in Paris, lots of history in Paris, and Printemps and Galeries Lafayette in the 9th do have free views from their roof. They're not the best views by any means. Like if you want to get a good view of the opera in particular, that's great. It is nice for the panoramic sense of it, but there are better views. We can make a video about that at some point. Still worth going to visit. Once you're done shopping though, you should start heading a little bit north and a little bit east. The north section is Pigalle, which is where you're going to go to get your nightlife, your bars, your restaurants. Again, risque activities if you're with an adult group, or you can leave the kids behind, and just generally a great place to go party. And then if you go a little bit farther east, some great restaurants. It's very residential, very quaint, great shopping, just a really nice area to walk around and explore and get some really nice views and photos of Sacré-Cœur. Sacré-Cœur is not in the 9th, but I often say the best photos of a lot of these monuments are a neighborhood over, and the 9th definitely has some really, really good ones. So with all that said, the 9th having some of my favorite stuff in it is a great place to go, but if you're a first-time visitor, it's gonna come in at a B. Palais Garnier, you definitely want to go see the opera if you can while you're here. It's one of the most beautiful buildings in the city, and I think is a really great substitute for Versailles. It feels much more palatial, substantial to me than Versailles. If you're a foodie, you're gonna love it. If you gotta go shopping, you're gonna love it. It has a lot of those those landmarks. It just doesn't have the top tier landmarks or the top tier parks that we're looking for a first timer. And you know who has even less of that than the 9th? The 10th. Let's get into the 10th arrondissement. The 10th arrondissement is, as you may know if you've seen my other video, my favorite place to live. If I could move anywhere in the city, it would probably be in the 10th. I love it. Who doesn't? What's to complain about? I mean, there are a lot of complaints. You can go see the comments in that video. The 10th is going to have probably the best known portion of the Canal Saint-Martin, so the canal that runs up north out of the city. Some of the best coffee shops and restaurants in the city, some great bars and nightlife. Also some really fun areas to wander and shop. This is the top portion of République, so the Republic Square. It's pretty hipster in some ways, and of course it has Gare du Nord and Gare de l'Est in it, which any train station is going to offer a little bit more of sketch in it. If you're coming from London on the Eurostar, you're going to hit the 10th because that's where Gare du Nord is, and I wouldn't argue that you should stay immediately around the train stations because, spoiler, Europe train stations, generally speaking, not the best places to be for a variety of reasons, but once you get away from it, there's a lot of magic to be found. All that said, and weighing this for my biases, this is not going to be a priority if it's your first time when you're coming to Paris, and as much as I love it and as much as it pains me to do this, I'm gonna have to give it a C. The average first-time visitor is just not gonna be that into the 10th. I'm sorry. But if you're an off-the-beaten-path kind of person, absolutely go there. And if you're an off-the-beaten-path person and you love food, you are going to go to the 11th. The 11th arrondissement is one of the most popular neighborhoods in the entire city right now for so many reasons. The main ones being bars, coffee, nightlife, restaurants, all that kind of stuff. The 11th is where we end up all the time to eat and drink and have a good time. It is the densest arrondissement for amazing restaurants, bars. Socializing with Parisians in the 11th, gonna happen. It is a little bit hipstery. Some people would argue a lot of bit hipstery, but it's still also very affordable. The most densely populated neighborhood in the city. It's a working class area. It's really, really fun, friendly. I love it so much. What it lacks, however, are big parks and major monuments. The one thing you might have heard about that you're going to go there that gets visited a lot is the Atelier des Lumières. So it's a place you can go to see an immersive light show that might be about art, might be about dinosaurs, might be Tintin for all you know. It's a great spot to go and get out of the sun or out of the cold. It's air conditioned and heated, so depending on the season, it makes for a really nice break, and you're going to be surrounded by a ton of really good food. In fact, my favorite places, almost all my favorite places at the tops of my list, are in this area. I have favorites all over the city, but the 11th is amazing. Because of that, even though it's lacking in the monuments, the parks, it has a few museums. I am going to give it a B tier because I would be remiss not to encourage you, for your first time in Paris, to at least go to a restaurant like Kubri or Ubat's, somewhere that is just going to be one of the best restaurants that you have while you're in Paris. But again, this is just my take on Paris, and the 11th, even if you're not going to spend much time there, you've got to go there for at least half a day, if not an entire day, once on your trip. Like, make it your foodie day and go nuts. And after you're done eating all that food, one of the great walks you can make while you're in Paris is gonna be in the 12th. The 12th arrondissement is much like a few others where they have a very specific fan club that are always upset with me for not recommending it more intensely. The 12th does technically include the Parc de Vincennes. So it's not shown on this map here, but it's a major park outside the city that's been annexed basically by Paris. This map is intramuros, so it's within the périphérique, the ring road of Paris. It doesn't exactly line up with that ring road, but the 2 million or so people of Paris proper live within that, the additional 10 million of Greater Paris outside of it. And Paris, of course, decided to take two of the big parks that were just outside of it for itself. So the Château de Vincennes, the Parc Floral, the park as a whole is very nice. Not first-time visitor nice, though, unfortunately, and also just really far away. If you love castles, the castle at Vincennes is really, really cool. It's like the most castle-y feeling castle for me, as an American dreaming of medieval castles is gonna go. That one's freaking amazing. The 12th itself, though, is a little bit less first-time visitor friendly. There's a lot to love here. It's a very cozy area. You have Marché de l'Aigre, and you have the Coulée Verte, an old elevated railway that got converted to a park like 40 years ago and inspired the High Line in New York. So if you'd like to go on a walk along that, it's really great. Would I go out of my way for it? Not necessarily. It's a place I love to go for runs, and there are a lot of really cute shops around. Gare de Lyon is there if you happen to be getting out of Paris. If you're going to a big show, you might go to the Accor Arena at Bercy. There's a lot there and going on, but it's much more of a local vibe than a visitor vibe, and honestly, I wouldn't really send you there. You won't be remiss going there, and again, there are things that I do enjoy about it, and I have a hard time putting it any lower than C. But like out of all the C tier ones here, it's probably the lowest. It's bordering down with the D tier. Sorry, I've got friends in the 12th that are going to be so mad at me for this, but not as mad as the people in the 13th are going to be. Let me tell you. The 13th is a place that I love. It's the luckiest arrondissement for obvious reasons. So much good food from all over the world, some great coffee shops. It has Butokai, which is a place that I've never really hyped that much, partially because I'm actually not as familiar with it as I wish I was, and I'm ashamed of that, partially because I have friends that live there that don't want me to promote it. It's a really, really cute, fun neighborhood. The street art in the 13th is hard to beat. There are certain areas of the city that are definitely compete. I won't say that it is unbeatable, but there are some great murals. There's so much to love in the 13th, but it is so far away. And the average first-time visitor is not going to make it to the 13th. I wish it were otherwise. I wish it was different. I really do. I'm sorry, but it's not. Le Gobelin is there. I always get trouble for not mentioning that, which is cute, and it's a fun area to walk around. There are some very unique parks down there. I do really like it, but it doesn't have any of the really big draws that would pull in a first-time visitor. We can talk about that for maybe third-time visitors. If you're interested, let me know below. But in the interim, I'm sorry, 13th. I'm afraid you're going to have to be the recipient of our very first D tier. But don't worry. You won't be the last. The 14th arrondissement is very well loved by the people that live there. I also get in trouble for not mentioning the theater district that is there. But I don't mention it, especially for first-time visitors, because you're not going to see theater in English there. And if you are looking for French-speaking theater, you might find yourself there. There are a lot of places in Paris that you can go for French theater, right? You don't have to go to the 14th. The main reason anybody's going to end up there for their first time visiting, if they go there, is going to be the catacombs. The catacombs are in the 14th. It's a long underground walk filled with millions of bones. It is a very unique and interesting experience, and I think it's one of those things that I would say, if that's your thing, you're going to love it. If it's not your thing, I wouldn't do it. I've done it before. I thought it was really interesting for two reasons. One, it's just unlike anything I've ever seen as far as the bones are concerned. The way that they put it up, everything's macabre, fascinating. The other is because it felt like a geography tour of Paris because of all the different churches whose cemeteries had been exhumed, or is that the word I'm looking for? Did you exhume a body? You know what I mean? The cemeteries got emptied into this place. So you get to see the signs and be like, oh, I know where that is. Oh, I know where that is. That was kind of interesting, but about halfway through, I was kind of over it, to be honest. I also expected it to be a little bit grander because we hear stories of the catacombs under Paris being these mazes and like with caverns and all this stuff. And it's pretty low ceilings and just kind of windy and wandery and warm. And you also have to wait in line for a bit to get in. Again, if it's your thing, you're gonna love it. I think my sister would actually really enjoy it. But for the average first-time visitor, I don't think it's actually worth spending that much time doing when there's so much other stuff to do. And then outside of that, the 14th, it's got some stuff coming along for food and for coffee and so forth, but very slowly. And somebody's gonna say, well, at least Tour Montparnasse is there. Tour Montparnasse isn't even in the 14th. It's another one of those things that the cemetery is there, but the tower, if you wanna go get that view, it's next door. So honestly, the 14th, like you've got the catacombs, you have the Petit Saint-Chour, which you can go wander there. The old train line that is now a park. It is really nice to just wander if you're looking for a quiet vibe. I don't hate it. I love the 14th for what it is, but it's not a place for first-time visitors to go. And actually, I'm feeling very conflicted about how I ranked these at the moment after I just finished that description, but I'm giving it a D. The reason I feel conflicted is because we're getting to the 15th. The 15th also is going to get me in so much trouble. Sorry, Fox, in advance. There are things here that I love as well. Good News Coffee, Oh Coffee. There's a lot of coffee popping up in the 15th. Also some really good Korean food. I found a couple of new restaurants. It doesn't have anything for first-time visitors, though. Like, Tour Montparnasse, maybe, but I don't think Tour Montparnasse is worth it for most visitors. It's not my favorite view of the city. It's kind of cool to get that high up and see everything, but it just feels so far removed from everything. Personally, I prefer my views of the city to be lower down and a little bit more panoramic and involved. It has, you know, Parc André Citroën. It has the hot air balloon there if you can go up there, but it doesn't go up every day, depending on weather. It has some shopping. It's just very residential. It's just, if you're a first-time visitor, feel free to go there, but like, I wouldn't recommend you go there. And because I'm required to give something an F tier, because I made up these ridiculous rules, it means that the 15th, it's gonna be our F tier for today, which might have been a surprise. Did you guess that F15th was gonna be the F tier? I should have asked at the beginning of this whole thing. You should put your guesses below. What are my S and F tiers gonna be? Yeah, F tier is gonna be the 15th. That said, if you're like a third or fourth time visitor, there's some great gems there. We can talk about in the future, but Yeah, people love living there. I wouldn't recommend if you're a first-time visitor that you get there, but I might recommend you go to the 16th. The 16th Arrondissement, as you know, is where I live. I got in a lot of trouble for giving it F tier on the video about where I would live in Paris. Haha. The 16th, however, has so much good stuff for a first-time visitor. Trocadero, you're so likely to end up in Trocadero just for the photo, if nothing else. But there's also the Architecture Museum. There's the Museum of Man, the Anthropology Museum, I guess. There is the Modern Arts Museum at Palais de Tokyo. There are so many small museums. Renlag is a great park. The Bois de Boulogne is off to the side. You're not going to go to the Bois de Boulogne if you're a first-time visitor, most likely. Again, going that far out of the city, like literally out of the city, to go to a park, probably not the top of most people's priorities. However, that like eastern edge of the 16th does have a lot of great stuff going on within it. It's going to be hard not to go there. And now we have a couple of great spots. Belen is a great coffee shop, one of my favorites. Argentinian coffee shop with some, it's more of a pastry shop. She makes some amazing pastries, highly recommended. It's quiet, it's calm, it's beautiful. It's really nice to wander. There is some shopping, like some upscale shopping. I wouldn't call it the most charming version of it. And generally, like, I would spend less time here personally for a variety of reasons. But if you're visiting, you're definitely gonna hit it. And that's why it ends up in the middle of our bell curve and at the top end of our bell curve here. But the bell curve is about to get a little bit shiftier, and I'm gonna get in a lot more trouble because we're gonna talk about the 17th. The 17th Arrondissement of Paris, again, has a huge fan club. People love it, and for good reason. It's very diverse, actually. Spanning, it's long. It's not quite as long as the 16th, but it has a very 16th and 8th vibe on the western side, and then starts to feel very much like the 18th by the time it reaches that side. It has quite the transition going on, and there's a strong delineation when you hit the train lines coming out of Saint-Lazare Station, Gare Saint-Lazare. It's weird to mix the languages here. The architecture in that middle portion is also really interesting. There's a park over where the old Petite Ceinture was. There are a lot of very quaint and just, it's a varied section, which makes it really great for wandering if you've been to Paris a lot. But if it's your first time in Paris, you're not very likely to go there. There are going to be some cool little museums. There's going to be some fun small things to explore, but this is very much an area to go to explore Paris when you feel like you've explored the rest of Paris. It has some great parks in Martin Luther King Park and Square des Batignolles. Batignolles, very cute, up and coming with some great coffee and restaurants. Rue des Dames has some interesting stuff going on as well. So there's a lot there that I like as a local to wander and explore and be inspired by. But if you're a first-time visitor, you're probably not going to be all that interested in. And as a result, the 17th is going to have to even out this bell curve a little bit and pop us down to a D tier. Yeah, but I mean, for first-time visitors, I mean, yeah. But every first-time visitor is also going to know the 18th arrondissement. The 18th is where Montmartre is. It's where Sacré-Cœur is. It's a free view of the city because you've got elevation, the tallest hill in the city. Mont, meaning mountain, mountain of martyrs, the martyr mountain, Montmartre. There's a lot of interesting history here, and if you want to dive into that, the Museum of Montmartre is not a bad spot to start. That rhymed because I'm gonna get in a lot of trouble for how I'm saying Montmartre as well. Montmartre. It's not just the neighborhood on top though. If you spill over the top toward Jules Joffrin or you come down towards Pigalle, there's a lot to love in the 18th arrondissement. But for a first-time visitor between Pigalle and Montmartre specifically, you are absolutely going to hit it. Technically, as a neighborhood, Pigalle spills over into the 18th, and we tend to think of it as more of a 9th thing, but it is in the 18th. Between that and the top of the hill, you're gonna find some really cute shops, restaurants, bars. The nightlife is not bad. You do want to get away from the main corridors though. So if you're walking straight up the hill towards Sacré-Cœur, that's where the scammers and pickpockets are, so be careful of that. Instead, go a little bit to the side. And generally, like let's say you get out at the Anvers metro station, which is how you can look straight up at Sacré-Cœur, go left. Like just go a couple blocks over and then up the hill, you'll find another one of my favorite coffee shops in the world, Clove. So good. You're gonna find so much good stuff wandering around there. You have to go at least spend a day wandering the hill in Montmartre. Highly recommended. Montmartre is coming in at one of our late running A tier right here, just to keep things positive. Because I mean, at the end of the day too, all of Paris is worth visiting. This is just how we're prioritizing it for your first trip. And if you want help, we've already planned your first trip for you. I've left a link below. We can email you a PDF that we created completely for free. That's your first 48 hours. It's a 48-hour itinerary that's done in the style of the itineraries we sell. So you know it's gonna be really good, high quality, get you all the major monuments in 2 days, along with good food and drinks, just a little off the beaten path to get away from, that's the problem with the beaten path, is there's a lot of shops and restaurants that don't care because you're tourists, they don't have to treat you well. will. They'll get new people next year anyways. You want to get just a little bit off the beaten path where people will appreciate you, like in the 19th. I love the 19th for Butte Chaumont, the Upper Canal. There's so much to love. If you're a beer lover, some of my favorite tap houses are on the Upper Canal. So good. Summer vibes up here are very hard to beat. Butte Chaumont is my favorite park in the city. There's a lot to love just wandering around and exploring. I love it so much, but it is not a priority for first-time visitors. I think if you love parks or, again, beer, a little bit of nightlife, you want to go up the canal and see a little different side of Paris, play some pétanque in the summer, you're going to love the 19th. But if it's your first time visiting, the average person, even if you're a foodie and you're like me, it's not going to be the first place that you go. And as a result, again, keeping this bell curve strong, I'm sorry, the 19th I think is at best a C tier for a first-time visitor. Yeah, even if I think it's A tier. Which brings us to our final arrondissement, and possibly the final controversy of the day, the 20th. The 20th arrondissement technically is at the farthest east. I'm not sure. You're gonna know it for Père Lachaise. And again, if you're into the macabre, it is one of the biggest, nicest parks in the city, even though a lot of people don't think of it as a park. It's a wonderful cemetery filled with so many famous people. It's beautiful, so nice to wander through, very worth it, right next to some great bars, restaurants, and coffee shops. Again, although the density is much lower in the 20th, it is up and coming. There are some great little shops. It's really nice to wander and explore. Very residential, very neighborhoody, especially when you get to the hilly bits and the surprise bridges that come out of nowhere. The 20th has so much to offer. But that said, Père Lachaise is the one thing that really brings the 20th up for the first-time visitor because there are so many people that are going to want to see it, and I highly recommend you do see it. But without that, it doesn't have a lot to offer the first-time visitor unless you have a very niche love, like you're into vulgar stamps or you really want to just get away from the tourists. If you're going for that, you're gonna find some really, really great stuff, but for the first-time visitor, ain't gonna be your thing, and I'm afraid that the 20th also lands down here at a C, which brings us to a wrap. All the arrondissements have been done. I have put the numbers on the map here so you know which arrondissement is which, along with the colored coding so you get a bit of a vibe from the heat mapping. As you can see, overall, Paris is just worth visiting. You're not missing out if you come and you wander, but on your first trip, you're probably going to want to stay very central with a few metro trips out to see other things. Paris is super walkable. Get your steps in now. Get ready to walk. Do as much walking as you can. It's also one of the most bikeable cities in the world now, so if you want to hop on a bike, you can see all this stuff from above ground as you go, and it's not hard to do. If you want to take a bike tour when you first get here, you can find all my recommendations for tours along with everything else at the link below, parismypocket.com. Grab my guide. There's a bunch of free resources there as well, including that 48-hour itinerary. If you click that link instead, we will send that to you as soon as possible. But as you can tell, I love this city. I love exploring it. There's so much more for me still to explore. I haven't seen all of it. I've seen a lot of it. And I hope that if you're coming to Paris, you're dreaming of it, you're planning it, or you're already here and just like trying to figure out what to do with your life, that you have the best time possible while you're here. Be sure to follow my other account, Paris in My Pocket, for all the tips and tricks as you go. Thanks to Mark Pells, my patron producer, for this video, and all my patrons for making this possible. Thanks to you for watching, and I'll see you bright and early one of these mornings sometime soon for a lot more videos from here in Paris.